Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description.
This is Charlotte, and you're watching Going In Raw. That sounds terrible.
What's up? This is the most must-see WWE superstar of all time and his lovely, gorgeous wife,
Marie.
and you are going in SmackDown Live. Who needs Raw?
What's up? It's your girl, Sasha Banks, the legit boss, and you are watching Going In Raw.
Oh, baby, I like it raw. Oh, baby, I like it raw. And you are tuned in to Going In Raw right now. How you doing?
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steven Larson and everywhere fine podcasts are available, including iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud.com/Steven Larson.
Very soon.
Very shortly, like within the span of only like 6 weeks or so. WrestleMania is right around the corner.
We're on that. We'll be on Spotify.
Spotify. Maybe I'll email the guy today, Larson.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll email him today.
That's a great idea.
Maybe I'll email. Today's episode of Going In Raw is brought to you by the Steiner brother and dog.
It's not, in fact, true.
How you feeling today?
I'm all right. I'm still recuperating from a busy weekend. One of the things we did this weekend was go enjoy our first pro wrestling Guerrilla show.
We have heard all about these things.
Yes.
It's a fever pitch atmosphere.
We've watched matches. I own a few PWG DVDs.
I remember when PWG started, thanks to Joey Ryan and I believe Scott Lost back in the day, well, like 2002, 2003. Okay. And it was right on the tail end of me and our buddy out there going to a lot of local shows. And seeing Joey Ryan and Scott Lost, guys like that. But once it started, I had kind of stopped doing local shows.
Yeah.
And I've always been curious. And it's just amazing to watch it develop, especially over the past 2 years or so, into like one of the top indie promotions in terms of the quality of matches.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the talent they're able to bring in. And so to be able to witness that finally
in person
firsthand,
yes,
it was absolutely everything I expected and much
it definitely lived up to and exceeded the hype.
And from all indications, this wasn't even one of the better shows.
I know.
Like here's the thing, it was a fantastic show. But, you know, the few people that we talked to, including Big Jim, who we went with, and big shout out to Big Jim for letting us crash at his place.
Yes.
It was a very cozy home
yes.
there. By all accounts, like they said, you know, this was nothing compared to like some of the other shows they've held.
And looking at the card, not even a mediocre match.
I know.
Every match was fantastic.
I know. It was one of these things where you didn't need stories going into it. Each match told its own story. One guy typically worked heel, one guy typically worked face, and the crowd was just let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was one of those things where here's the thing about the PWG crowd that I noticed almost immediately is that everybody was really cool.
Yeah.
Everybody was super freaking nice. You realize you're going to be packed into this tiny American Legion Hall, and you know that it's going to be sweaty.
Yes.
It's going to be cramped.
Yep.
Long lines for beer.
Yes.
And yet everybody is overwhelmingly cool.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, man, you know, because you're just sitting there. You have like no leg room, but people need to get through, and so you bend over backwards to make sure they can.
Yeah.
The ring announcer had the bell.
Yeah, and had to pass it over.
He said,
crowd.
"Hey, could you crowd surf this to the back over there?" And people like, nobody's weird, nobody's a dick,
and everybody is just there to enjoy the show and appreciate the effort that every wrestler is putting forth.
Like I remember we got there and we had like one of our Big Jim's buddy Sean was waiting in line. We're standing in line holding our spot, and we had like 4 or 5 people show up after that. Nobody behind us complained, "Hey, why are you holding spots?" No, none of that. And So we get there, we get in line, and as I'm walking to go sort of find Big Jim, the Young Bucks are walking from the parking lot. Nobody freaks out. No. Nobody goes and says, "Oh, we're gonna have a picture." No, just leave them the fuck alone.
Yeah,
everybody knows they're there to do business. They will be available to sell merch and to take pictures with you and whatnot later on when
at
the time is
appropriate. Time.
Exactly.
But right now, they're trying to get to the building. It's like everybody understood that once the wrestlers are in the auditorium, that's their time to interact with the fans.
Exactly.
To put on their show.
Yeah.
But unless they're in their place of work, leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody just knew that. It's like this really cool club, atmosphere. So it was just the atmosphere, and then it's just like a big celebration, and nobody's committing party fouls.
No.
So it was just that was to see that, to witness that just from the get-go was really, really cool.
Yeah.
It was just really neat. And to see everybody is one of those things where you go and you don't quite understand all the, the chants at first, but you learn them, you learn sort of the etiquette and the rules and all that kind of stuff. And, Super Dragon comes out and he intros the show. Excalibur shows up and he intros the show. And he says, hey, just basically so that everybody be cool.
Yeah.
If you see, because sometimes the action goes outside the ring. There's no barrier. There's no area ringside where they can just mill about.
If someone is either thrown or goes to the outside of the ring, you pick up your chair and move, because the odds are pretty good that someone's going to come flying over the ropes.
Which is such an adrenaline rush when it actually happens. Everybody's like, okay, cool, something cool's about to happen. Move out of the way.
And we have to be sitting with our backs to where the camera was shooting the show.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times, when they have a high spot of someone jumping out of the ring onto the floor, it's going to happen in the direction towards camera.
Yeah.
So there was probably at least a half a dozen or 10 times where someone gets thrown out of the ring right in front of us, and we had to get out of the way or at least pay attention.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was fantastic. It was so much fun. But anyways, let's run down the card.
Yes.
First up, we had Trevor Lee versus Cody Rhodes.
TNA superstar and X Division champion Trevor Lee.
Yeah, thank you.
Against Cody fucking Rhodes, as he put it.
As he put it. And then the crowd goes, Cody fucking Rhodes. Tiny bit of controversy here. Apparently, Trevor Lee, not apparently, he did. He ran down Dusty Rhodes a little bit. He said, fuck Dusty Rhodes at one point. Now, I didn't notice this, but apparently, it was an in-character thing.
Yeah.
But apparently, Cody Rhodes wasn't happy about this. And
well, that's not the gist I got from his tweets, were not so much that he wasn't happy about it. It was because in his tweets, he apologized that it happened.
Right. And in his tweets, he said there was 2 or 3 tweets, and he says,
I have one rule for my matches. He didn't say what it was, but the inference was that don't talk about Dusty.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, I always tell the opponent and the announcer this, don't bring up my family.
Well,
before a match.
Yeah, but he said this time he didn't do it.
Yeah.
He said he apologized that.
No, he didn't specify his family. He just said, I always tell my opponent what the rule is.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yeah. He said, at this one, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah, exactly. But apparently at some point during this match, the realization was made that, so the match went off without a hitch.
It was a good match, really good match.
Cody ended up taking the loss.
Yeah.
Trevor Lee beat him with a fisherman buster. But apparently at some point during this match, it was discovered that the ring was broken.
Yeah.
And so, for about...
there was a bit of a delay to get it fixed between the first and second matches.
Yeah. But again, everybody's having a good time.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared.
Yeah, no one really complained. And then, when the ring crew got the ring fixed, everybody cheered.
They all got a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Which led to the next match, which was fantastic.
Trent Beretta is quickly becoming one of my favorite guys that's not signed to the WWE right now. He's fantastic.
So we had... Trent Beretta against Ray Phoenix. Phoenix has wrestled for PWG before and also in Lucha Underground. These guys put on a fantastic match. At the very beginning of the match, Trent said something along the lines of, don't do any Lucha shit.
Exactly.
And so for the first part of the match, Ray Phoenix would do something remarkable.
Yeah.
And then Trent would try to do the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the first 2 or 3 times he did it fine. The last time he just... punched Ray Phoenix in the face.
Ray Phoenix has some marvelous chopping skills. Trent, it's funny because Trent was trying to keep up with him, and it just kept on falling a bit flat.
Yeah.
But then Ray Phoenix would come back with a chop, and it was just thunderous.
Yeah.
It was great. Some guys can just have the meat hooks to do a chop that just echoes everywhere. It's just bust the sound barrier.
I know. It's great. It's fantastic. It's so good. There's a couple really There was one spot in particular where Beretta is on the outside of the ring, kind of bent over at the hips. Mm-hmm. And Rey Fénix climbs the top rope and says, "Lucha shit!"
Yeah.
And then jumps off the top rope, does a double stomp onto Trent's back.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Beretta hits face first on the ring apron, and that was rough to watch.
Yeah, that was rough to watch. A lot of these spots were rough to watch.
Yeah.
But it was a really fast-paced, really fun match.
Yeah.
Trent Beretta ended up going over with a reverse cradle pile driver.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We had this was I was really looking forward to this. We've seen Jeff Cobb in action.
Yeah,
and we
but
both love
you
him.
hadn't seen any Matt Riddle.
I had not
at
seen
all, right?
one lick of Matt Riddle, but I know that everybody's really high on him. And now I know why.
Yeah.
This kid is going to be huge.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. So he was a mixed martial artist. He was on a season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, and I think he fought in Bellator a little bit too.
Okay, all right. He made the transition to pro wrestling about 2 years ago. It was 2015.
Yeah.
And
he has picked up really quickly.
My God, he is fantastic. And his interaction, his natural charisma and his interaction with the fans is so fantastic. It is so natural. It is so organic.
Yeah.
It is absolutely great. He's marveling, even when his own tag team partner, in this case, Jeff Cobb, is getting his ass handed to him. And there was a really spectacular. So they took on the Unbreakable effing Machines.
Michael Elgin and Brian Cage.
Exactly, a couple of giant motherfuckers. Yeah. And there was one spot where Elgin or Cage, I think it was Cage.
No, it was Elgin.
First. Elgin first. Okay.
No, it was Elgin first.
Elgin first. Okay.
Gets Jeff Cobb up in a suplex, standing
right.
suplex.
Exactly. Yeah.
Holds him up there for a while, then passes him off to Brian Cage, who holds him up for a little bit longer, and then he passes him off back to Michael Elgin. This whole time, Matt Riddle is in his corner, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" It was less like, "Oh my gosh, this is bad for my partner." It was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!
This is an incredible feat of strength that I'm seeing."
And he's
right
turning
now.
to the crowd, kind of
selling it as well,
almost trying to get him to cheer for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wasn't like selling, like. He was fearful that his teammate was going to get wrecked here.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing moment. So anyways, Elgin gets him back, holds him up for a bit longer, does a squat, and then suplexes him.
Yeah. Yeah, does a squat. The squat, I think, got the biggest gasp.
Yeah.
He did that squat, and everybody's like, oh my God, because everybody knows what fucking shitty squats are.
Yeah. But then he's held Cobb upright in a standing suplex position for combined like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
25 seconds.
Yeah. It was fantastic.
He was probably getting a little tired.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is a fantastic match. Jeff Cobb is great. Matt Riddle's great. Everybody in this match is great. Elgin's great.
Yeah.
Brian Cage is great.
Ridiculously large and ridiculously athletic.
Yes.
Like he does shit that like dudes his size should not do. Yeah.
But he is huge and he can do. He did like a standing moonsault at one point.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. The Chosen Bros, the team of Jeff Cobb and Matt Riddle, did in fact go over.
They are incredibly over with the PWG crowd.
Jeff Cobb is ridiculous strong. Like there was one moment when he took all of Brian Cage's momentum, and he's a fucking big dude, and he stopped it dead in its tracks in midair and brought him back to do his finish.
Yeah.
And it was like, I've never seen that kind of brute strength. It kind of reminds, how like when you just sort of marvel when Cesaro pulls off something that's just, and you just realize that pound for pound, he's probably the strongest guy in the roster. Like he's not a huge guy, but like, and that's the difference. Like Jeff Cobb is like a super stout guy, like super wide. And he just manhandled Brian Cage with ease in terms of just being able to manipulate him in any fashion he wanted.
Well, Cobb has two moves that really showcase his strength. One, most people, when they do a belly-to-back suplex, they just fall straight back. When Cobb does it, he kind of swings his opponent around and almost looks like he's like just tossing his opponent's weight.
Yeah.
And then second, his finisher, which is just as kind of a standard power slam, but instead of swinging this way, I guess, to get his opponent on the mat, he almost does like a full 360. He swings all the way around, the opposite direction you would think.
Yeah.
To do the finisher, and just shows off how otherworldly strong he is.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
And Matt Riddle is just he's tall, he's lanky, he's not real bulky, but he's stronger than
he's super strong
than a lot of people
because he was manhandling those big dudes too.
Yeah, and he really showcases his MMA background.
Yeah, he does a lot of cool shit where he'll just like transition seamlessly into different submission maneuvers.
Yeah. But still, he's reasonably well versed in pro wrestling moves as well.
Yeah.
I watched his match against Kyle O'Reilly at Bolo last year, and it was really good.
Yeah, I got to check that out.
Chosen Bros would over after Cobb hit his power slam finisher.
Yeah.
Great match.
It's called the Tour of the Islands. I'm getting some notes here also from Wrestling Observer. According to this was mainly from Chris GST. That put together these notes.
Next match, Ricochet versus Leo Rush, which from my understanding, this is his first Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show.
Yeah, and he's signed to Ring of Honor currently. I'd never seen Leo Rush in action from what I know.
I hadn't either.
But man, watching, and it's going to be interesting because I'm going to get whenever we check out a show, I'm going to get one of the DVDs.
Yeah, you can pre-order this DVD right now.
Yeah, because I want to see how this is going to translate. Because being there and seeing it live versus watching it on the TV, I think are going to be two different experiences.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, it's kind of obvious, but Leo Rush is one of the fastest dudes I've ever seen live, and Ricochet, of course, also one of the fastest dudes I've seen live.
The match opened with an incredibly intricate, fast-paced counter move sequence where they were all trying to get the upper hand and actually really just hit each other.
Yeah,
and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, and this was again, a match where the characters kind of bring a story to the table. In this case, Ricochet was sort of the old bastard veteran.
Yeah,
like he was the arrogant. He's been through this a million times.
Yeah.
He understands that Leo Rush might be out of his element in terms of his mindset because this is his first time performing in front of this crowd, and so that was sort of the story being told. And so it was basically Leo Rush, the underdog, and Ricochet taking him underestimating what he could do to him and continually being surprised at Leo Rush's arsenal. That was the story that was being told.
And it was told masterfully.
Oh, and it was told fantastic. Yeah, it was absolutely told fantastic. It led to this finish that was, I thought it was a super dramatic finish because Leo Rush basically had given everything he had. There were spots that went to the outside, multiple spots on the outside, flipping over ropes, doing all sorts of crazy shit. Leo Rush was selling the hell out of Ricochet. Would whip him with everything he had
into the turnbuckle,
and Leo Rush would just completely
he was selling a lower back injury.
Yeah, he was selling it like a pro. Ricochet at the end, he had Leo Rush sort of down, and it almost felt like an execution. Like Leo Rush was down on his knees, and Ricochet delivered a kick to the side of his head, to the other side of his head, and that had Leo Rush's head down, and then he dropped a
heel kick on the
back of his head, and it just collapsed him, and then he gave him a twisting reverse brainbuster, and it was like an execution had happened, like he was just putting this kid out of his misery after he had given everything he had. And he got the 1, 2, 3. It was a fantastic match. I can't wait to see Leo Rush again.
Yeah.
And on a side note, he's got fantastic looking merchandise.
He does.
It's kind of funny we're able to see who has really cool looking merchandise. I'm not going to call out anybody for having shitty merchandise, but Marty Scurll, his merchandise looks you can get on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Yeah.
And check out his merch.
It's consistently all very good.
It is so well designed.
Yeah.
It is so well designed. Leo Rush again has really, really cool looking merch.
Yeah.
I noticed it the one shirt, it's sort of blue and orange, I think, and it's sort of it's a bit on the loud side.
The one he wore to the ring?
The one he wore to the ring.
Yeah, that was the Rush is similar to the Rush, the band, their logo in the 70s.
Okay, yeah.
So it looked kind of like an album cover.
Okay, yeah, exactly. It looked really, really good.
Yeah, it was well done.
So then we had Marty Scurll. Now, this is really interesting. We had Marty Scurll versus Jay White, who was also a newcomer to PWG.
Yeah.
And Marty Scurll is the kind of guy, you noted this afterwards, and I totally agreed with you. Seeing him live, you totally get it.
Yeah, because I had seen, again, Bola last year, which he won. Mm-hmm. I watched, I think, his matches in the first 2 rounds, sorry. Mm-hmm. And I watched his stuff and I thought, okay, he's good. Mm-hmm. but there was a lot of hype around him.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't really get it.
Yeah.
But after watching this match, unless you watch him live, I kind of feel like, at least right now, you don't really pick up all the intricacies of what he does.
Yeah, yeah. And it makes me wonder if going forward, so he's the current Ring of Honor TV champion, and he's going to be fighting Lio Rush, defending that title
Is that
coming
at the
up soon.
anniversary show?
I think it's at, I want to say it. Yeah, I think so.
I think that's their next pay-per-view.
Okay, that makes sense. It's either that or Honor Rising. But I feel like it was Honor
could
Rising.
be.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I wonder if he would be helped. Like on the indie circuit, it's kind of hard to do this. I know Ring of Honor does do basic promo stuff, but I wonder if he would be helped with like video packages, like video promos. I don't know. I just feel like to get the full, like I would think that this dude would translate when you're not watching him live, because so much of his personality, like you just need to see it to believe it.
Well, I think so much of what he does is interacting with the crowd.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes that translates well on video, but sometimes it just doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just literally in terms of what the mic will pick up.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
exactly.
But
yeah.
if you're there, the place is so small, you hear everything.
Yeah, totally.
And it's really great. He's
yeah.
tons of fun to watch.
Oh, he's so much fun to watch. And he totally plays up his villain gimmick, and he's got that great bird mask that's sort of like the old school, like those were
the doctors used to wear during the plague days. Yeah,
the plague days. And there was this great bit. There was a couple of great bits. Number one, when he, so knowing that the ring had been broken earlier, he said, "I'm gonna break this ring so none of you get to see the rest of the show."
And that was great.
And then the crowd in response started chanting. Half of them started chanting, "Let's go, Marty!
Let's go, ring!" It was great.
There's another great part when
Jay
White picks up the bird mask. He has sort of Marty Scurll in like a prone position. He picks up Marty's mask, and the crowd starts chanting, "Be the bird, be the bird," because like a bird mask, got a big beak on it. And so he puts it on, and he starts acting like it's consuming him, like it's taking him over.
And then he that stops, and then he starts doing the.
He starts inhabiting the character of
and he sets up Scurll for the chicken wing.
Yeah, exactly, because that's his thing.
Scurll reverses it, and during the reversal takes the mask off him.
Yeah.
And then Scurll eventually gets the chicken wing, picks up the win.
Yeah. But it was Jay White was fantastic. And I totally get, like, I really am looking forward to the next time I get to see Marty Scurll live. And it makes me wonder if, like, once you see him live, if that sort of opens the door for, now I get his shit.
Yeah.
Now when I see him on video, I'm going to be, oh, cool,
exactly.
it's him.
Yeah.
So definitely a guy to check out live. Next up, we had probably the most fun match of the card.
The most spectacular in terms of the spots.
Like, this was so much fun. It was the Super Click, the Young Bucks, and Adam Cole.
No, they are the Super Click.
No, I know. That's what I was saying. It was the Super Click, Young Bucks.
I thought you said and.
No,
Sorry.
the Super Click, who are the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, and they defeated. What is his name here? OI4K.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
OI4K. It's Sami Callihan, who was Solomon Crow in NXT.
Yeah.
And Jake and David Christ, who I know they've wrestled for CZW.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a video online, I don't know if you've seen it, where there's the ring is right next to like a brick wall, and one of the guys runs the wall to do a cutter on somebody.
Oh, shit.
The guy who runs the wall is Dave Christ, I think.
Okay, all right.
So I'd seen that spot before. I didn't know it was the Christ brothers involved in it.
Yeah.
But some of and this is pretty consistent if you watch any of the Young Buck stuff in PWG.
Yeah.
The matches that are booked for them, or I don't know who books the matches or plans these spots out, but they're always really creatively done.
Yeah.
And there was at least 2 or 3 sequences in this match where I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
How do you even put this all together?
I know.
There was this one spot where everybody was giving out stunners and cutters to everybody.
Yeah.
And it culminated in Adam Cole essentially doing...
Hold on. It started. It started with so it was a whole section of cutter. We were talking about this in the car yesterday, where the Young Bucks and Adam Cole, they sort of deconstruct wrestling in these matches.
Yes.
So they go through a whole sequence of was it super kicks first and then cutters?
The super kick, the huge super kick sequence
was at the
close
end.
The match.
Close the match. So they did a spot with all these cutters, but I thought they did something before that. But whatever.
Well, I mean, there's super kicks throughout the whole match.
Yeah. But I thought there was a sequence like this with a different finisher, but whatever. There was a sequence that we're talking about where everybody's doling out cutters. But so one guy doles out a Stone Cold cutter, one guy a Stone Cold stunner. One of the Jacksons, one of the Bucks, throws up DDP's diamond cutter, and he drops it like a diamond cutter.
Yeah.
And what was there was another? I thought there was another cutter before.
There was the one. No, maybe not. Was the super cutter after?
The super cutter was the last one.
Yeah. Okay.
But I thought there were three before the RKO.
There were.
Okay.
One of the Chris, I think, gave one to somebody.
Okay.
Because it was like back and forth. The teams were giving cutters back and forth.
You see the Stone Cold Stunner. You see, because I think there was like a springboard stunner. There was the there was the diamond cutter, and then Adam Cole drops down and does the perfect Randy Orton build up to the RKO. Yeah. And so he's like, and he does it like over the top.
Yes.
So he's like doing the thing where he's pounding on the mat, and then he gets up and he does the weird wiggle thing that Randy Orton does, but he completely overdoes it.
Yeah.
And then drops an RKO. And then they get like two guys up on the top turnbuckle.
Yeah.
And Chris does an old school, like where he's walking the ropes, and he drops a cutter on the dude, like on the very top of the pyramid.
It's like except for like a tornado DDT. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
He kind of walked up the rope like that.
Yeah.
But then instead of the DDT, he drops a huge cutter.
Like this giant mountain of people falls down.
Three men falling down,
which
culminating in a cutter.
And it was
fantastic.
Like, oh my God, these guys are basically they're taking wrestling conventions and seeing how much they can do with them.
Yeah, they're kind of reveling in the ridiculousnof
exactly
some of this stuff, and it's hilarious and it's tons of fun to
watch.
They
did something that you called. I don't know. Did you hear this, or did you come up with that term yourself? The Super Kick Symphony.
I just made that up myself.
Okay,
that's how the match ended.
So you've got, and we've seen this before with the Young Bucks and the
Super Kick Party.
Yeah, the Super Kick Party, where they've got their opponents down on their knees, and so you had all three. They've got the Chris brothers and you have Sami Callihan, all on their knees, and all three guys deliver a super kick to each at the same time, and then
that was the end of it.
Okay, well you take me through it then.
So you had Callihan and the Chris brothers on their knees.
No, the end of it was. They all kicked the one guy at the same time.
Yeah, but they did Chris, and then the last one was Callihan, and that's when they got the pin all at the same time. So what they did is so you have, I think it was Chris, Callihan, Chris, and then you had the Bucks and Adam Cole.
Yeah.
And so they do simultaneous super kicks.
They
did like 3 or 4 of those. And then they did consecutive.
Yeah.
So one would kick one guy, one would kick the other guy, kick. And they did that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then they all went to one Chris brother, kicked him. All three of him at the same time.
At the same time, he was down.
Yeah, turned to the other Chris brother.
Yeah.
Did that. Went to Callihan.
In the middle. Yeah.
Like gave him middle fingers or something.
He gave him a middle finger and spat at them.
Yeah. And so they all 3 of them super kicked him at the same time.
Yeah.
Got the pin.
And
that's how the match ended.
And they've done this. Yeah. And they all pile on top of them at the same time. And it was just like, I've seen them do this with the Briscoes. I've seen them, we've seen this in PWG before. But to see them do even more stuff with it.
Yeah.
And refine it and make it more interesting and more creative.
The coordination involved in that
was
spot on.
Yeah.
There was no hiccups at all. Like all of the simultaneous super kicks were perfectly timed.
Yeah.
And when they did the consecutive ones, it was like the rhythm of them was exact every time through.
Adam Cole is so much fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and you said this before, he just kind of looks like a guy. Mm-hmm. He's just a really handsome guy. But he personifies that in that, like, there are spots when it's going to hurt, and he's got the arrogance, but at the same time he says there was one part where he was going to like flip over the rope or do something, and he says, "Adam Cole, baby," and then he stops and he says, "Shit." And then he goes into the move because he knows it's going to hurt, and he's not so arrogant that he realizes it's not going to hurt.
There was this one spot where he was trying to get, I think, one of the Chris brothers up for a brain buster, and he kept fighting it. So like he tried to get him up. He yells, "Brain buster!"
Yeah.
Try to get him up. The Chris brother fought it. He's like, "Damn it!" Hits him a few times, tries again, and doesn't get it
because it's like, dude, I've signaled to the crowd this is going to happen, and you're ruining it for me. And that's what he's telling him basically. It's like, God damn it, just do this.
And there's another spot which I've seen before in another variation where the Young Bucks go up the top, do a 450 splash.
Yeah.
And Cole's calling for it. He said, let's do this." And instead of him doing the 450 splash, he just kind of does like a really short jump.
So they do it all at the same time. The Young Bucks are killing themselves doing this 450, and he just sort of gets like maybe 6 inches of air.
Not even that. It looked like he just kind of fell over. It was
just sort of falls over. So it's so much fun, and you can check it out on DVD once it comes out. You can pre-order it right now. it'll be interesting once we watch it on the DVD and then match it up with what we experienced live. And then in the main event, we saw the PWG World Champion. This is very interesting to me because I've not seen a lot of Zack Sabre Jr. I saw him in the Cruiserweight Classic. I've seen a couple other matches with him. And he beat Chuck Taylor
to retain his PWG World Championship.
And Sabre was working heel the entire time. I mean, Chuck Taylor was obviously, as soon as he came out, he was like the
super over with the crowd.
And I really liked Zack Sabre Jr. as a heel. I finally find him interesting seeing him work this way because he has this look on his face. He doesn't emote a lot at all.
Not really, no.
Like barely anything. And so when he has this almost dismissive look on his face, when he's kicking somebody when they're already down, as if they're a peon, it works.
I know it works into his kind of general detached demeanor.
Because
he didn't really interact with the crowd a ton. He does a little bit, but not a lot. And it actually really benefits him because some of the crazy submission moves he does, if he's this real cold-blooded, tactical wrestler, dismantles his opponent, which is what he did here. It really fits into his heel persona. So this match is pretty good. Chuck Taylor comes out immediately, tries to get a roll-up win. That doesn't work. He pile drives.
Yeah, it was funny. He tried to take him off guard.
Tries to get a pin right off that. Doesn't work. And so the match actually gets going. It's a spot where Chuck Taylor jumps to the outside. They get back in the ring, and Sabre, there's several instances where he's trying to get Chuck Taylor in the triangle submission. And he finally does towards the end, and Chuck Taylor tries to fight out of it, and just can't do it, and passes out. The ref calls the match.
Yeah.
Tons of heat on Zack Sabre.
Oh, yeah,
Tons
big
of
heat. Yeah.
So Marty Scurll comes out and says, "You don't respect Zack Sabre Jr."
He's the best technical wrestler on the planet.
Which is funny because during the Marty Scurll's match, he said he was the best technical wrestler.
Yeah.
But anyways, so they start beating up Chuck Taylor. Trent Beretta comes out and makes a save. He and Chuck used to be in a tag team called Best Friends in PWG.
Yeah.
So they hug it out. And so, and I think it's been confirmed now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the rundown. So, in only a month away, which it was kind of surprising. I'm not sure how they usually do this, but I thought it was every 2 months that they would run a show. Yeah, I thought so too.
So, we're going to see Zack Sabre Jr. and Marty Scurll team up, take on Best Friends.
Yeah.
Chuck Taylor and Trent.
We also get Leo Rush versus Trevor Lee. We get the Chosen Bros over Dave Christ and Jake Christ. We get Keith Lee making his PWG debut to take on Brian Cage. Sammy Callahan's going to be taking on Adam Cole, baby. And in a PWG debut match, we're going to get Shane Strickland taking on Desmond Xavier.
And then also Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr.
Penta L0.
Yeah.
I guess is what he's going by now.
Oh, okay. L0M, yeah.
Yeah, L0M.
They're teaming up and then taking on the team of Ricochet and Matt Sydal
versus the Young Bucks.
Versus the Young Bucks for the PWG tag titles.
That's happening on March 18th.
So that'll be a fantastic match.
So I'm looking forward to that. We haven't really talked about if we're going to try to make it out for that. But I would love to. I'd love to give it a try. But yeah, that should be a lot of fun. I mean, I was blown away by my first PWG experience.
It was fantastic.
So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of those. So yeah, that was our PWG experience. Oh, and I want to say shout out to all the people that were kind enough to come up to us and
it was great. It was great meeting
some of their
everybody
names.
at the show.
Jonathan came up to us when we were in line. He said, "Hey, great to meet you," and shook our hands. There was another Steve there that came up to us. There was Miriam and her husband. I forget his name, but she was super nice.
Yeah.
I want to say there was an Eric, and yeah, that's all I can remember. And then people were trying to give you the too sweet, man. There was one guy who I think legitimately was kind of I don't want to say offended, but he was like, "Man, really? You're totally in character."
My stance on too sweeting is very well known.
And then of course we actually made it into like the Super Click took a picture.
Oh yeah.
Of the crowd behind them before the show.
Yeah.
I was like this. I was looking at my phone.
And I could see what was going on.
Yeah.
Everybody else around me is throwing up a too sweet.
Yeah. And then I look up right as they're taking the picture. And then right after the picture's done, I throw up a too sweet.
Yeah.
And it was too late. The picture was done. So I just look like I'm a deer in the headlights.
Yep.
Look like an asshole. And also a shout out to Ulysses and Sandra for coming out and snatching up our extra tickets. Good to hang out with those guys.
Yes.
So yeah, that was PWG. A lot of fun. What was the name of the actual card? It was
Only Kings Understand Each Other.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, be on the lookout for Newsplex. Is that already up or is that going up?
That'll
later?
be up already. This will probably be up Tuesday morning.
Okay, cool.
First thing.
Okay, first thing. And so later on today, we'll have our Raw recap.
Correct.
Yeah. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.